Hi, in this video, question we are going to discuss has been taken from IB question paper with this particular code. This exam was conducted in November 2018 and it was for a higher level paper. In this video, we shall be discussing the second question from this particular paper. So you might be wondering where the first paper is. First question is. The first question, answer to the first question has been solved before. Its link will be provided in the description box. If you want to have a look, you may check the description box to get the answer to the question 1 from this particular question paper code. So now you may pause the video and read through the question. So it says, an organic compound containing carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The organic compound is containing carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Has 62.02% carbon. I'm highlighting carbon is 62.02%. Hydrogen is 10.43. So you might be wondering how much is oxygen. In order to get the mass of oxygen, we can assume total to be 100%. If you are assuming total to be 100%, this total is going to be equal to percentage carbon plus percentage hydrogen plus percentage oxygen. So it is 100, which is equal to 62.02 plus 10.43. That gives us the percentage of oxygen as, if you're assuming it to be X, the percentage of oxygen will be equal to 27.55%. So assuming the total to be 100, we can calculate the percentage of oxygen by subtracting the values of the other two elements. So determine the empirical formula of the compound showing the working. So now let's try to understand it with the help of a diagram. So in this diagram, you can find that a person is collecting a sample of soil. It might be to check the acidity or basicity of the soil. It might be to check the various nutrient content, or it might be to check the presence of various elements. For some reason or the other, the sample is taken. Likewise, let's assume that this is the sample we have to analyze. We have got an organic compound there. We don't know we don't know what compound it is, what functional groups it is having, nothing we know about it. We just know that it is having 3 elements present in it in the ratio 62.02 for carbon, 10.43 for hydrogen, and 27.55 for oxygen. We had calculated it and found it out. And this was obtained. These values were obtained by, these percentages were calculated by doing respective tests and analysis in the sample analysis in the laboratory. We are not bothered about the experimental part of it, how the percentages were calculated, how the percentages were found out through the experiment. We are not concerned about it. Anyway, the data is there with us. We just need to use the data to calculate the empirical formula. Now let's see how to calculate the empirical formula with the given set of data. So now let's see how to go with the calculation part. So here we are writing element. There is carbon, there is hydrogen, and there is oxygen. Assuming that there is 100 gram of sample, 100 gram sample, if it is 100 gram sample, we have been already given that carbon percentage is 62.02. So carbon is going to be 62.02% of 100 of this 100. So this 100 gets cancelled, and I'll be getting it as 62.02, meaning this 62.02% I can replace it with grams. Grams of carbon would be 62.02. I hope you've understood how we are getting this, how we are replacing percentage with grams. Same thing, same calculation works for hydrogen also. It would be 10.43 over 100 times 100, assuming 100 gram of sample. So this also turns out to be 10.43. And last of all, this turns out to be 27.55. So we have got the grams. Now, the next aim is to convert it into moles. Whenever we do mole related or stoichiometry related questions, the given data, let it be in volume, let it be in mass, everything we'll be converting it into moles. Here also we have to do the same thing. The given mass, we have to convert it into moles. So to get the moles, the formula goes like number of moles is equal to mass over atomic mass. So for carbon, it is 62.02 divided by atomic mass of carbon is 12. So there I get 5.168 grams. I'm sorry, 5.168 moles. Coming to hydrogen, it would be 10.43 over 1, which is same as 10.43 itself. And for oxygen, it would be 27.55 over 16, which is the atomic mass of oxygen. So when I do the division, I'll be getting it as 1.72. But when it comes to empirical formula or when it comes to molecular formula, we don't have it in decimal values. We have it as a whole number. So in order to get it in whole number, we have to divide these values for moles with the smallest value. Smallest value here would be, the smallest value is 1.72, meaning I have to divide all the numbers with 1.72 itself. So dividing by, so to get the simplest ratio, I'll be dividing 1.68 by 1.7. I'm sorry, I have to divide 5.168 by 1.72. This gives me 3.004. Dividing 10.43 with 1.72, I end up with 6.06. Dividing 1.72 with the same number, I get 1. So this can be rounded off to 3, this to 6, and this to 1. Now I'm having the empirical formula as C3H8O1. This is the skeletal formula. This gives me the simplest ratio between the elements, between carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in the sample what we have studied. The empirical formula might turn out to be the molecular formula itself, but at this particular stage of time, we cannot confirm whether the molecular formula and the empirical formula is the same or not. So before moving ahead to the next question, let's see the marking scheme. This is the marking scheme. You can have a look to see how the marking scheme has been provided for the part we have discussed just now. Just have a look here by pausing the video. So if you're ready, let's move on to part B. This is part B. You may again pause the video and read the question. So the infrared spectrum of the compound is shown. Deduce the functional group of the compound. Actually, the purpose of using infrared spectrum itself is to identify the functional group. For the identification purpose of functional group, infrared spectrum will help. And here you can see so many peaks in the infrared spectrum. You might be wondering how to interpret it. Now, you have to understand that the region below 1500, this is known as the fingerprint region. Now, what does fingerprint region means? You are all familiar with this QR code. This QR code will be scanning, will be used for scanning purposes to make payments and all, because this will be unique. With this unique code, what is generated, we will be able to scan this code and retrieve all the information laid in it. All the information related to a product that we have purchased or something of concern can be retrieved if we are having this barcode. Likewise, another analogy or another comparison, what we can do is with our fingerprints itself. Each of us has Each of us have unique fingerprints. My fingerprint would not be the same as your fingerprint. Your fingerprint will not be the same as your parents' fingerprints or your friend's fingerprint. Each of us have our own unique fingerprints. Likewise, each and every molecule has its own unique, each and every compound has peak which would be different from other compounds. But unfortunately, because we don't have sufficient data, we cannot use the fingerprint to identify the compound. So this portion can be eliminated out. Now, after the elimination of this portion, we are left with two peaks. One here somewhere around 1700 to 1750, and the next one around 3000. So now, if I'm comparing with this data table has been taken from the IB data booklet. If I'm comparing it with this data booklet, somewhere around this region, I'll be getting the peaks which are generated by the CH bond vibrations. CH bond vibration, it might be from an alkane, it might be from an alkene, it might be from an arene. Irrespective of the alkyl chain, a CH bond can give rise to a peak around 2050 to 3000. Our data matches with it. Some of you might be confused with this data also. We can eliminate it out because the empirical formula of the compound that is given to us is C3H6O1. And if you're having an alcohol, let's take ethanol. For instance, if I'm taking ethanol, ethanol is CH3CH2OH, and its molecular formula would be C2H3 plus 2 is 5 plus 1 is 6 and O1, or I can have a general formula as CnH2n plus 2O1. Let's see what is the general formula for this. So when I'm checking the general formula, I'll be getting this as CnH2n. 3, twice of it is 6, O1. So this doesn't match. So we can conclude that this is not an alcohol. And of course, primary amines is blindly ruled out because there is no nitrogen in the empirical formula. We didn't get any nitrogen in the empirical formula, what we had calculated before. So we have got a conclusion. We have been able to identify that it's the peak around 3000 is corresponding to the CH bond in the molecule. But that is not what is being asked for. We are asked to find out the functional group. Now, we have another peak around 1700 and 1750, somewhere here. That corresponds to CO. Here it is written as aldehyde, ketones, carboxylic acids, etc. That will be giving one strong peak around 1700 and 1750. Please keep in mind aldehyde, ketone, carboxylic acids, esters. Again, the option for carboxylic acid has to be ruled out because carboxylic acid is C double bond OOH. This OH should give a peak around, again, it cannot be carboxylic acid because if there's a presence of carboxylic acid, we have to get a very strong and very broad peak around 2500 and 3000. This is not that very strong. It's not a strong one. Strong one means it has to come way down. It has to come till here and it has to be really broad, something like this. Something like this would be a very strong and a broad one. It has to come really deep down. This is only a moderate peak. So it's not carboxylic acid even. In other words, if you're checking the molecular formula, that way also we can get it. Let's take, for instance, a simple carboxylic acid like CH3COOH. Our compound is having the empirical formula C3H6O1. So here it is C2H4O2. 2 carbon atoms, 3 plus 1, 4 hydrogen, 1, 2, 2 oxygen. So this would be CnH2n. 2 times 2 is 4, so 2n, O2. But again, our compound is CnH2nO1. This also clearly rules out the option of even thinking about carboxylic acid. Even esters also will be having the same general formula. Esters also will be having the same general formula. So the option of having an ester or carboxylic acid, or the option of a compound being an ester or carboxylic acid, is ruled out. Being an hydroxyl or an ether group, that is also ruled out. Now we have the only option left is aldehydes and ketones. So either the compound might be an aldehyde or the compound might be a ketone. But aldehyde and ketone represents the class of organic compounds which have a C double bond O group, meaning the C double bond O group is actually the functional group. This is corresponding to a carbonyl. The C double bond O corresponds to a carbonyl group. So when the question is asking us to give the functional group, we are not supposed to write aldehyde or ketone. You have peak at 1700 to 1750 corresponds to carbonyl. So now let's check the marking scheme. This is it. 1700 to 1750 corresponds to carbonyl group. And here they have clearly indicated do not accept ketones or aldehydes. Puzzled? I'll show you how. Or see, just have a look at this table. It's clearly stating the functional group name in this particular column. The OH is called hydroxyl functional group, but that's not in our compound. Likewise, C double bond O, let it be from a ketone, let it be from an aldehyde. C double bond O is called a carbonyl functional group. So you're supposed to write only carbonyl. Aldehydes and ketone is the homologous series or the class name. Don't write aldehydes and ketones when you're asked for writing the functional group. With that, we move to the next section, section C. You may pause the video and read the question. The mass spectrum of the compound is shown. Deduce the relative molecular mass of the compound. This is a very simple question. Just by looking at the graph, you can get the answer to it. So here you can see two strong peaks, one at 43, another one is 58. These peaks or the minor ones are shown here, but we can ignore it. Yeah, these peaks are created by ions. The molecule would be getting fragmented into smaller fragments, and the compound, when we are passing the compound through a mass spectrometer, it will be fragmented into smaller fragments with a positive charge. So depending upon what fragment is generated, depending upon what all atoms are there in the fragment, we will be getting different peaks. So the one at M by Z value 43 could be because of CH3CO positive ion. How so or why so? Let's try to understand. Weighs 12. Carbon weighs 12. There are 3 hydrogen, which adds up to 3. Another carbon, again at 12, and an oxygen, 16. If we're adding it up, we get 43. So this could be a probable ion, which is giving a peak at 43. Again, it's not the time to confirm. It could be an option. Then you have something at 58. And if you can observe the graph, there is nothing beyond 58, meaning this clearly indicates that this is because of a molecular ion. Now, what is a molecular ion? A molecular ion could be formed by simply a loss of electron. A loss of electron will not result in the reduction of mass, will not cause the mass to decrease because electrons' mass is taken to be negligible. So molecular ion might be resulting from a loss of an electron, or the actual molecule would be having a mass of 1 unit higher than 58. So I'll repeat, this could be because of molecular ion. Now let's try to find out what could be the molecular ion. For getting 58, and our empirical formula is given to be C3H6O. If I'm adding this up itself, I'll be getting it as 58. So 3 times 12 happens to be 36. 6 times 1 is 6. And 1 times 16 is 16. If you're adding them up, you'll be getting it as 58. So our molecular ion peak corresponds to loss of an electron. Now let's try to figure out which compound, what could be our compound. Already we have got that it's having a carbonyl group in it. None other functional group we were able to detect in our previous calculation. And here we are confirming that this is the molecular mass. This is the molecular mass, meaning the empirical formula. From this, we are getting a crucial point. Here, the empirical formula is equal to the molecular formula. Molecular formula. Meaning, our molecule has only three carbon atoms, 6 hydrogen atoms, and 1 oxygen. So with 3 carbon, 6 hydrogen, and 1 oxygen, and a carbonyl functional group, which could be an aldehyde or a ketone, I have 2 options. Our compound could be CH3COCH3, or it could be CH3CH2CHO. We have got the relative molecular mass as 58 from the molecular ion peak. The question is asking us, deduce the molecular mass of the compound. Molecular mass is equal to 58. This is the answer. Let's check the marking scheme. So there you go. Now moving on to the last section, the compound could not be oxidized using acidified potassium dichromate. Deduce the structural formula of the compound. So now you have to understand what is the role of acidified potassium dichromate, or how acidified potassium dichromate interferes with an aldehyde or a ketone. How acidified potassium dichromate respond with an aldehyde or a ketone. As far as an aldehyde is concerned, aldehydes are oxidized by dichromate, which is orange in color. This is a dichromate solution, K2Cr2O7. This is potassium dichromate solution, which is orange in color. That will be oxidized to Cr3+. This is the green colored Cr3+ ions. Potassium dichromate. It is only aldehydes that are oxidized by potassium dichromate, not ketones. So if there is an aldehyde, adding potassium dichromate to an aldehyde, the CHO portion will be converted to COOH, and that's the reason why the potassium dichromate is undergoing a color change. As far as ketone is concerned, let's take it as RC double bond O R dash. This cannot be oxidized by potassium dichromate. There is no reaction. So in the previous section, we have found that the molecular formula of the compound, or molecular mass of our compound is molecular mass of the compound is 58, and you'll be getting 58 from C3H6O1. If you're adding the masses of these many atoms, we will be getting it as 58. This gives us a crucial point. This brings us to the conclusion that empirical formula is same as its molecular formula in the compound what we are analyzing. Empirical formula and molecular formula of the compound, what we are studying is the same, meaning our compound also has the same molecular formula, meaning it has only 3 carbon atoms, 6 hydrogen atoms, and 1 oxygen. With this, we have to find out what is going to be the structural formula of the compound. So in order to identify that, we need one more information. We have already saw from the IR spectrum, we had already seen that there is a presence of the carbonyl group. There is a presence of carbonyl group. And from here, we have already, and from this test, we will be able to identify whether the compound is an aldehyde or a ketone. Going back to the question once again, the compound could not be oxidized. Could not be oxidized means it cannot be oxidized clearly indicates the compound is a ketone. It's not an aldehyde. It's not an aldehyde, it is a ketone. So this corresponds to a ketone. Empirical formula, same as molecular formula. So this many atoms of each element, combining all this data, we can propose a combination like CH3, C double bond O, CH3. This is the only ketone that we can get out of these many atoms. So what is our compound? Our compound is nothing but CH3, CO, CH3. We can write the structural formula as C, hydrogen, 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 C double bond O, C, hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen. Let's see the marking scheme. This is it. So with that, we come to the end of question number 2 from this particular question paper. Meet you with another question in another video. Thank you.